He got frustrated with the EU and announced that he was going to accelerate the process because he didn't think they were negotiating fast enough. So he reset the date for the EU to June 1 and reset the tariffs to 50%, which was higher than what he had initially proposed. Then over the weekend, he got a call from the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who persuaded him basically to back off and restore the previous date. So they're back to July 9th for the new tariffs, but he's leaving it at 50%. So the threat is bigger than it was before, but the timing is the same as it was before. You're right. It's kind of a yo-yo policy. Tariffs are on, they're off, they're up, they're down, they're large, they're small, there are exemptions, there are no exemptions. Every few days, there's a new thing. So it's very hard to predict. Although we're beginning to see a pattern, and the pattern is big demands, big threats, and then a postponement. And then sometimes, as with the UK, which is the only agreement so far that's actually finished, a fairly modest outcome. What Trump says when he talks about the EU, and he tends to focus on the things that irritate him. And once you get past the rhetoric about it's unfair and they're cheating us, the specifics are they have a value-added tax, which he thinks is a subsidy. They have a digital services tax, which he thinks treats our companies unfairly. They have a higher car tariff than we do. He's really obsessed with cars. And they have they have digital trade rules that he thinks discriminate against American companies. He's right about that one. And they have what are referred to as sanitary and phytosanitary standards, which means sort of food standards, food health and safety standards that, among other things, prevent our chickens from getting into the European Union. It's easier to talk about tariffs because they're numbers, and we want them to lower the car tariff. That's not simple, but that's a number. When you get into health and safety and rules and environmental rules, you're talking about the way countries organize their economies and their societies. We think it's protection. They think it's health, and telling them you need to take our chickens is telling them they need to lower their safety standards. And that's much bigger ask. And there's a much bigger political cost in Europe if they agree to that. So it's going to be a hard negotiation. We've been talking about some of this stuff for 40 years without resolution. It's not going to happen in the next 3 months. If you look at the UK deal, though, there's a pathway. That was, by my estimation, 20% tangible concessions and 80% aspirational. We agree to talk more about this in the future. So in the UK agreement, they agreed to have a future negotiation about digital trade. They agreed to have a future negotiation about pharmaceuticals.